Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a good day. Want to welcome you all back to another segment of Album Spotlight. Now, the artist I'm going to be talking about today, I've never talked about before on the channel at all. That artist is Daryl Hall, and the album in the spotlight is his debut solo release, Sacred Songs. Now, everyone out there knows who Daryl Hall is. Half of Daryl Hall and John Oates, successful pop, R&B, blue-eyed soul duo who have been together for almost 50 years. And unfortunately, they recently announced that they have officially dissolved their partnership and they will never be recording or performing on stage ever again, which is quite unfortunate. Now, with this album, the reason why I found out about Sacred Songs is like I've seen it on Amazon posted and advertised, and I've seen it in stores, but I never paid much attention. And the reason why I latched onto this album today is because after watching the news story about Hall & Oates, the information about them breaking up, they talked about him releasing his debut solo album, Sacred Songs. So after listening to it, I thought it did fit in with what I wanted to do and talk about on this channel. So here we go. Sacred Songs was recorded in August of 1977, but it was not released until March of 1980 through RCA Records. And the reason why RCA held on to the album for so long, they basically shelved it when it was given to them by Daryl Hall, was that they didn't feel that it had any commercial viability, meaning it didn't have any hit singles on it, which really pissed off both Daryl Hall and Robert Fripp, who produced the album for him. So what they did was they leaked, quote unquote, tapes of the tracks to radio stations. And once fans of Hall & Oates got wind of what was going on and listening to the music that was being played on the radio, they basically wrote into RCA Records and pressured them to release the album. Now, in listening to the album, I can understand RCA's point of view to an extent because, they have an artist who at that point had two major hits with Sarah Smile and Rich Girl and had been releasing records with John Oates since around 1973. So they honestly didn't think that this was going to go anywhere and it was going to be basically commercial suicide. But again, they did release it in March of 1980. The original album had 10 tracks on it, and it clocks in at 46 minutes and 31 seconds. The CD issue of the album has two additional tracks, having a clock in at 52 minutes and 1 second exactly. It was produced by Robert Fripp, from King Crimson. It is listed as an art rock album and also, I would say, post-punk, new wave. And upon release, the album reached number 58 in the US charts, which is quite respectable, and number 93 in the Canadian charts. So it fared better in the US than it did in Canada. Now, playing on the album with Daryl Hall, I'll go through it. Daryl Hall is on vocals, keyboards, and synthesizer. Robert Fripp on guitars and Fripptronics, tape loops. Caleb Key on guitar, Kenny Passarelli on bass guitar, and Roger Pope on drums. Now, Key, Passarelli, and Pope at that point had been playing with Elton John from about 1975 on as his recording and touring band. Now, Caleb Key, out of the three, has worked with, I was going to say Robert Fripp, worked with Elton John as far back as Tumbleweed Connection from 1970. And on the CD issue, you have two additional tracks, and the musicians performing on those tracks are Charles DeChant on saxophone and baritone saxophone, David Kent on backing vocals, Tony Levin, yes, the Tony Levin, on bass, uh, Jerry Marotta, well-known session drummer, on drums, Brian Eno on synthesizer, Sid McGuinness on pedal steel guitar, and Phil Collins on drums. Okay, I'll get into that in a sec. Now, after listening to the tracks, I gotta tell you guys, I was quite surprised. I did not expect this kind of material coming out from Daryl Hall at all. Um, Daryl Hall, fantastic vocalist, very smooth, suave, very sort of a voice that's like butter. Okay, very sort of seductive, kind of sensual kind of delivery on the tracks he's done with Hall and Oates. But this album, Sacred Songs, is more jarring. Okay, he does play piano, and there is a lot of piano oriented stuff on the album. Sacred Songs, the track itself starts off with a piano intro, very kind of boogie woogie kind of a situation here on the piano. But his vocals are very, I don't want to say harsh, but they're very direct, very prominent, very strong, almost like a wall of sound, a texture of sound. Uh, he's delivering with his vocals. This album is quite heavy in spots. It's experimental in spots, and I'll go through this with you. Aside from Sacred Songs, I should also note that apart from three songs that are over 5 minutes long, most of the tracks clock in from about 2 minutes and 52 seconds to 4 minutes and 33 seconds. After Sacred Songs, the title track, comes something in 4/4 time, 4 minutes and 22 seconds. Again, very heavy, just sort of very much in your face with regards to guitar treatments, guitar textures, keyboard textures, drumming, just very different from what uh, Daryl Hall was doing with Hall and Oates. Not that it wouldn't go, not that it wasn't going to sell, probably to a different audience, like a new wave audience or uh, post-punk new wave or an art rock audience, a la David Bowie from like say Low, Heroes, Lodger, that kind of situation. Very good, very good. Um, After something at 4/4 time comes a one of the lengthiest tracks or the lengthiest track. Uh, Babs and Babs at 7 minutes 41 seconds. This track, Daryl Hall is delivering a good, solid, decent vocal. He's not yelling, he's not screaming, or trying to be harsh with the delivery or dominant. Just sort of comes in very easy, like on a uh, middle register in terms of his singing ability. That track segues into an instrumental piece written by Robert Fripp called Urban Landscapes. Now, or Urban Landscape, singular, sorry. This track clocks in at 2 minutes and 29 seconds. It's very much guitar textures, an instrumental piece, a lot of guitar textures, a lot of sustaining of guitar notes on this track. And that track segues into NYC and Y, another Fripp and Hall um, collaboration in terms of a co-write, 4 minutes and 33 seconds. Now, I should say too that this album, although it is different, there are melodies. It is melodic. The melodies are hidden. They're not very prominent, like your typical pop, radio-oriented kind of a track, but they are there. You just have to sort of really sit there and listen and find them, And there's nothing wrong with that. Um, Side two starts off with a beautiful, emotional, emotive track called "The Further Away I Am," 2 minutes and 52 seconds. Beautiful, beautiful track. The next track after that is "Why Was It So Easy?" 5 minutes and 27 seconds. This should have been a single from the album. This could have fit into an R&B station playlist, top 40 playlist. It's very good, very strong, a good, strong vocal delivery from Daryl Hall. Daryl Hall has got such vocal chops on this album that it is bloody freaking amazing. And why was it so easy? It could have been a single, you know. Um, Don't Leave Me Alone with Her is another, I guess, extended track at 6 minutes and 22 seconds. Again, uh, Robert Fripp is coming through with the Fripptronics and and the sorry, there are keyboard textures, sorry, and guitar textures. Survive is another track that's up next, 6 minutes and 37 seconds. You know, another nice track. Listen, to me, great track. The original album ends with a track called Without Tears. Beautiful, very quiet track, very emotional track. Daryl Hall delivers a very soothing vocal on this track, just beautiful. That's the way to end off the album. That's the way the album does end off. Very soothing, very calm, very tranquil, in my opinion, anyways. The two additional tracks that feature Collins, Levin, uh, you know, uh, on instrumentation. One is called You Burn Me Up, I'm a Cigarette. Also, I should mention Jerry Morana on drums. And North Star. Okay, they are both co-writes by Robert Fripp and Daryl Hall. And North Star has an additional co-writer, Joanna Walton, on this. Each track, You Burn Me Up, I'm a Cigarette, 2 minutes and 20 seconds, and North Star is 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Now, these two tracks, You Burn Me Up and North Star, are featured on Robert Fripp's album Exposure, which came out in April of 1979. Um, so yeah, You Burn Me Up basically is a fantastic, straightforward new wave rock track, and North Star features fantastic instrumentation from Collins and Levin, and just amazing work. A very soothing track, a very emotional track. North Star is, and yeah, it's you know it's surprising from the information I read on this album that Robert Fripp and Daryl Hall were going to start a band together with Tony Levin. But due to pressure from the management of Hall & Oates and RCA, that never came to fruition. And yeah, and these two final tracks, You Burn Me Up, I'm a Cigarette, and North Star, they are featured on the bonus edition of the CD edition, sorry, of Sacred Songs, but they're also featured on Robert Fripp's debut solo album, Exposure. As I said, came out in 1979. And from what I read, Daryl Hall contributed a bulk of the vocals to the album Exposure. But again, due to pressure from RCA and management from Hall & Oates, most of the vocals from Daryl Hall were removed. There's a 2006 third version of Exposure where Robert Fripp uh, reinstated the vocals on most of the tracks. And that version of the album, I do believe, is included on the massive 32 disc set of uh, Exposure from Robert Fripp, which, by the way, is going to be here tonight by 10 p.m. Thank you very much. So there you go, guys. Sacred Songs from Daryl Hall. Listen, when I first heard this album, I was shocked because it was such a departure from the pop, blue-eyed soul kind of work, Philadelphia sound that he was doing with John Oates at the time. I think he wanted to break out of that mold. I think he wanted to do something very different from what he was doing with John Oates. And you know what? He bloody succeeded. If you know of this album, you're in on the game, right? If you don't know, please check it out. And again, if you do know, or once you do know, please let me know what you think of this album down below in the comments. And yeah, I think it's a fantastic album. Would I call it a masterpiece? That's too strong of a word. I need to listen to it a few more times, maybe get used to it a few over time, and who knows, my opinion might change. But right now, it is a good, strong album. It's quite different from what he was doing with John Oates as part of Hall & Oates. So Again, once you hear it, let me know down below in the comments what you think of the album. That's it for now. I'm coming back with a two-part episode called Play Me a Song, a deep cut dive into Billy Joel. I'm going to be doing that with Jim Bricker and Ken Cheshire. We'll premiering that in about 45 minutes. And also, I'm going to be doing a Genesis ranking the albums version 2.0. That's coming up soon with Bill Schuster. Ken Cheshire is going to be in on the show, and Jim Bricker is going to be joining us for that episode. We're going to be ranking the entire catalog of Genesis albums, including from Genesis to Revelation and Calling All Stations. So it's a complete Genesis album ranking, all 15 albums. So please stay tuned for that. I'm also going to be doing a series of 5 episodes called Have You Heard Of, where I'm going to be picking 5 quote unquote obscure prog albums to talk about. All right. Everyone knows about, yes, Genesis, King Crimson, Jethro Tull, Rush, but there are other bands out there that, you know, recorded 1 or 2 albums and never really hit the heights of those bands I just mentioned. So please stay tuned for that. That's coming up for the first week of November. Again, please click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content I've got coming up. All right. And yeah, please look after yourselves and one another. I'll see you soon with another video. Bye for now.